It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's start with The View. And here's Sunny Hostin repeating nonsense put forward by Democrat activists. She states it like it's verified fact. And then Whoopi Goldberg jumps in with another fib claiming Donald Trump is using an auto pen just like Joe Biden did. Now, the fun really begins when they're asked to correct that lie.
The Trump family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government. And he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using an auto pen. How come you don't know who this guy is?
Because he used an auto pen. The meetings that they're supposed to go to when they're listening to, what the hell, what?
I love when Sonny passes notes.
We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yes. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part.
Come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
It was a joke. It wasn't funny. It wasn't said in jest. It followed a bunch of other BS. But apparently, folks, we just missed the nuance. So much nuance on The View. But here is something different for The View. They actually had a conservative woman, yes, a real conservative woman, on with the panel. They tried their best to get Marjorie Taylor Greene to criticise Donald Trump.
He's worse, sorry, you know that. He's still your favorite president. He goes against everything you just said.
Look, I like Donald Trump. I fought for him to win. I'm very thankful for the secure border. I'm friends with Laken Riley's mother. And we saw I serve on Homeland Security. Over 12 million people came across our border. Over 2 million gotaways. These are terrorists, cartels, all kinds of criminals. We don't know where they are in this country, and that affects all of us.
It was a very pleasant chat. Everyone was on their best behaviour, not so much a robust debate as polite niceties. But at least Joy Behar admits here that any Republican or Conservative coming on The View is going to be in a 5 versus 1 battle.
A lot of people wanted me to come on the show and say nasty things and you know, all of us to fight. They wanted all of us to fight.
Thank you for not doing that.
Oh, my goodness, no. I didn't want to do that.
It's like 5 to 1.
She could handle it, but she didn't want to.
Now to a woman losing it for legitimate reasons. If she's a lefty, hopefully she changes her mind after this experience. Here is singer Tish Hyman's reaction after she had her Gold's Gym membership terminated because she dared speak out about a male body in the women's change room. Gotta say, I love this woman.
Gold's Gym! Men! Grown men with big in the women's locker room! And that's why I'm getting kicked out, and I want to make sure the girls know! Everybody saw that man in the locker room. No one's saying, and I'm done with it. It's stupid. It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
She's right. It is dangerous. She's confronted with a male body in the women's change rooms, a male body that is watching her naked body. She didn't consent to being naked in front of that man, and yet she's the one whose gym membership is terminated. Let's have a look at that clash with Tish and that dude, and then she explains why she was so upset.
Stay out of the women's locker room. We don't want it. He needs to have his gym membership revoked for that. Today I was naked in the locker room. I turn around and there's a man there in boy clothes, lip gloss, standing there looking at me. I'm butt naked. So the first thing I think is maybe there's a worker in here. Maybe I missed a sign. I say the word sir to say, sir, what are you doing in here? He goes, don't talk to me. I'm a woman. I have a right to be in here. Immediately, I'm pissed because I'm butt naked. I feel violated. I feel like weird. Like I don't want to deal with this.
She may be a woman, she may be black and a lesbian, but the trans activists always trump other minority groups when it comes to the victimhood stakes. Shame on Gold's Gym for allowing that to happen and for punishing the victim. But that's Gavin Newsom's California for you. And talking about Gavin, Here is what can only be described as weapon-grade chutzpah.
Nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
Incredible to hear that from a habitual liar, one of the very worst in politics. And here's a very handy trick to figure out when Gavin Newsom is lying. It's when his lips are moving. Now, remember Linda Sarsour, the Islamist activist who was celebrated and elevated by the Obama administration, the woman who led the Women's March. Remember that? That was hilarious, given her support for Sharia law. Well, she's back and she's ready to spill the beans on Zoran Mamdani's rise to power. Take note, America.
The story is not just, that it's random that Zoran ascended to this place. It is our Muslim American communities. And I'll also say that it's Muslim money. The PACs that have supported Zoran, or a particular PAC that has supported Zoran, is probably over 80% of Muslim American donors in this country, high net donors, grassroots donors. And I want to make the point that the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the CARE Super PAC, was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zoran PAC in New York.
Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, does that surprise you at all?
Sorry. Listen,
you've hit
what
the bottle already.
I have to. I've been drinking all night. I can't do anything about. Zoran Mamdani, Mr. Cardamom, is now his honor. He is now the sitting mayor of New York City. This is what it's come to. No surprise, but am I no surprise that he's mayor? Am I surprised about the revelation about Islamic money from Linda Sarsour? No, I'm not. No, people have been talking about that for a long time now. Understand, this is not just Muslim people donating. I've got no issue with that whatsoever, as long as they're legally allowed to do it. But this PAC was created and is controlled by CARE, right? The Council on American-Islamic Relations. And what CARE is a terrorist supporting organization. That's just not me saying hyperbole. They're an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation lawsuit and terrorism fund. The U.S. federal government prosecuted them for funding Hamas. CARE was an unindicted co-conspirator. Now they are the largest funder of the Mamdani campaign. Are we shocked? No, Mamdani rapped about this, right? In his awful, terrible raps. He rapped about the Holy Land Five, okay? Now, understand where this is all coming from, right? He is an Islamist. He is a third worlder. What I mean by that is he looks to elevate the third world. He wants us to emulate the third world, right? He looks at the West, at the U.S. in particular, but the West in general, as the people who have destroyed Africa and Asia, right? That we are colonizers. They are in the situation they are now because of us, right? That's the perspective he comes in, and that's what he's going to bring to New York City. He wants to make New York City like the third world. But what can we expect a guy who eats a burrito with a knife and fork, but eats his rice with his hand, right? Have we forgotten about that? He is the ultimate guy. Did you hear his code switching, right? I mean, he's the ultimate code switcher. Democrats are known for that, when he just pops into this like Southeast Asian British slang, Ali G impersonation. It's so gross. It's so fake. Yet, look, you know the old saying, you bought the ticket, you take the ride. That's exactly what's happening in New York. Look, I knew it was a problem when a lot of the exit polls were fascinating. And one of them was, they asked New Yorkers, is Israel a major issue in your vote? 38% said it was. That Israel is part of the importance for them on how New York City is governed. Once I saw the majority of people thought that, I go, this is going to be a problem for us. And it was. The man is now going to be the mayor of New York City.
There's so many unknowns now. What will happen, for example, if Benjamin Netanyahu wants to attend the UN and comes to New York City? Is Mamdani going to order his arrest, Ami?
Well, he's going to come to New York. Believe me, Bibi Netanyahu is not going to shy away from a fight. No, he of course he's going to attend. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that in the days of yore, when Arafat came to a concert, he was arrested, as he should. He's a terrorist. It will be fascinating. I want to see what's going to happen. I mean, I will pay money to have a front row seat for that. So, yeah, I mean, look, and by the way, when he was asked about that, right, he said that he would. He was also asked, they said, hey, are you calling for, you just want to have disarming, do you want to disarm Hamas? He goes, I have no opinion on that, but I have a definite opinion on arresting the prime minister of the state of Israel.
Yep, that is going to be incredible. I mean, really, it couldn't happen to a better place. Manhattan, the folks there have championed this sort of lunacy, and now they're going to live it. So let's see how that works out for them. But it's not just New York that voted. Virginia also had elections, and Jay Jones has been elected Attorney General despite text messages revealing he had wished for a political opponent to be murdered, as well as that political opponent's young children. We're talking about toddlers here. You would think that would be disqualifying, Army, but apparently not for Democrat voters. They backed him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't tell if you're being sarcastic or not. No, of course it's not disqualifying.
No, he won.
Of course it's not. Children. He called for the children to be killed, not just the elected official himself. I don't know what is worse than the other necessarily, right? But look, and by the way, the governor-elect of Virginia was asked if she condemns Jay Jones, and she wouldn't do in the debate, right? Which goes to the problem that Democrats have, right? There is a violence problem with the Democratic Party. There've been a number of polls, obviously, on the acceptance of political violence, and we've talked about in the air, but nearly 50% of people on the left of the Democratic Party think that using violence to push a political agenda is necessary sometimes. That's a problem. And by the way, more than a quarter of Democrats on the center left has said that's a proper use of violence, political violence, that is. No, there's a consent structure problem that the Democratic Party has. Like I've said a million times, it's not just the people who commit the violence. They're committing the violence because they have the room to breathe, right? If they're allowed this, they're giving the consent structure of the people around them. They know this is what these people support. This is the living example of that. So, of course, he was elected. Of course, it's not disqualifying the Democratic Party. And by the way, those texts came out in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. It wasn't like it was it'd be bad enough if it was in a vacuum, but it came right after that assassination, right, in that tense environment that we were in. So, no, it's not disqualifying. This is what much of the Democratic Party has become. I hate to say it.
And sadly, I think the media shares some of the blame because there was just a refusal to really cover that story properly. If there was a Republican who'd sent texts like that, you can be sure that every single voter would have heard about it. Now, the government lockdown continues, the fight over SNAP benefits, food stamps, and you undertook an experiment with food stamps. Let's have a look.
There are those who say that you can't live on food stamps. They're just not generous enough, and it's too expensive to buy food in the inner cities. Well, I'm here at Seatown in Harlem to find out if I can live exclusively on food stamp benefits for a week.
Army, how did you go? The full clip is on your X account, and it's quite fascinating. You take us through the whole week. Are you hungry?
No, I ate so well. Look, I wanted to put the lie to the idea that you can't live on food stamps, that people are just barely getting by, right? That was the whole idea. By the way, we use the word entitlement in this country. I hate that word because you're not entitled to it, right? That's the problem, that we look at these benefits and people say, no, you owe them to me. The American taxpayer owes, we owe you nothing. By the way, they changed the name from food stamps to SNAP. They don't want to call it food stamps anymore, and they're no longer actual food stamps. They're now these like EBT cards, they call them. They're almost like debit cards or credit cards because they've taken the shame out of it altogether. It's called SNAP now, supplemental nutrition, right? Supplemental, that's the idea behind it. But the amount of money you get is incredible. Here in New York, for a family of 4, it's $1,000 a month for food. I thought that sounds like a lot. And I kept hearing from people, oh, you can't live on it. That's why people are obese, because they can only afford to eat at McDonald's. By the way, McDonald's for a family of 4 is $40 a night. So I did this experiment. And by the way, I shopped in Harlem because they said, well, Harlem, they can't afford to eat proper food in Harlem because it's too expensive there. Well, I shopped in Harlem. Harlem, the same prices in my neighborhood here in New York. And I ate salmon, veal chops, chicken, fruits, vegetables, 3 meals a day, right? And it was for under $70 for the week. It was under $4 per meal, right? Per day. So yeah, and it's like, look,
it looked good, Army. I've got to say, I watched the video, and you're quite the at-home chef, and you whipped up some delicious and nutritious meals within that food stamp budget. Incredible. Army Horowitz, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Welcome back. Now, my next guest has risen to be a hugely popular Conservative commentator. Brandon Tatum was a police officer. He's now an author, radio personality, and a hugely popular online pundit with more than 3.7 million subscribers on YouTube alone, plus 2.3 million Instagram followers and many more on other social media platforms. Officer Tatum, welcome to the Rita Panahi Show and Sky News Australia. Let's start with the left's reckless rhetoric around Donald Trump. It's almost like they want to inspire another assassination attempt. Listen to how Nancy Pelosi describes the president.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the president of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives.
Just astonishing rhetoric there, Brandon, from a woman who should know better.
Well, you know, her intent is very, very clear. You know, although we've seen assassinations happen on our side, although we've seen others, you know, try to kill other Republicans, she's intentionally doing this. They're disregarding the threats that are coming our way because of the rhetoric they're pushing. They're disregarding it. They don't care. For her to say he's the worst person on planet Earth, the worst person in the world, he's not abiding by the Constitution. It's almost like she's dog whistling for somebody to take him out. Because who would not want a person, you know, who would not want a person to be taken out if they are not abiding by the Constitution of the United States of America? They're threatening our democracy. They've taken over the courts. I mean, that's a dictator. That's a person that's going to destroy this beautiful country. And they know better, but they do it anyway.
It is just so disturbing, despite what has happened, what happened to Charlie Kirk, the assassination attempt, 2 of them against President Trump, and they still continue down this road. Now, let's go to the government shutdown. How much longer can this drag out? Let's hear from Democrat John Fetterman, who posted this earlier today.
This is a record that I never wanted to break. Here we are in the 35th day shutdown, and I just voted for the 14th time to reopen our government. I'm going to continue to choose country over party. And I'm going to say pay everyone, and I'm going to say make sure everyone's fed.
He said it best there. He's choosing country over party. Brandon, who do you hold responsible for this shutdown, and what do you think the political fallout will be?
Well, I have to be honest, both sides need to come to an agreement, but I hold most of the weight on the Democrats because the Republicans have voted to open up the government over 14 times. You hear Fetterman say that he's also voted with Republicans, and that's the party, in my personal opinion, that wants things to be changed. I blame both of them to a certain degree because we shouldn't have never got to this point in the first place. I think that both parties should be able to come to a solution before this had ever happened. And although I blame the left more, we as a country, as the people of America, we want them to do better. We shouldn't have to go through this at any point. In my personal opinion, I wish we could pass a resolution that if you guys can't agree, if you guys can't be adults and get your heads out of your rear end and get things done for the American people and not have people going without money and starving, then y'all should be fined. Y'all shouldn't get a paycheck. How do you continue to get a paycheck and you guys are not participating in the process in which we've elected you guys to participate? But it is very clear that the Democrats are pushing to have illegal aliens have access to financial aid. And we're saying, no, we're not going to do that. Pass a clean CR, get the government up and running, and then we can negotiate these terms on a later date. But the Democrats want to have this shutdown occur, and they want to blame Republicans and Donald Trump so they can have leverage in the midterms. This is not about the American people. This is not about people on SNAP. This is not about any of that when it comes to the Democrat side. They just want to win points in the election moving forward.
I think you nailed it there. This is all about the midterms and creating an atmosphere of crisis, giving the impression that the Trump administration is always in some sort of crisis mode. I have to ask you about this revelation. Erika Kirk was on Fox News last night and she addressed Jimmy Kimmel's comments about her late husband.
Jimmy Kimmel lied about your husband's murder and didn't really apologize. What would you say to Jimmy Kimmel?
Same thing I told Sinclair. They asked. I haven't really told anybody this, so. They asked, do you want Jimmy to give you an apology? Do you want to be on his show? How can we make it right? Through our team, I responded. I said, told them thank you, we received their note. This is not our issue, not our mess. If you want to say I'm sorry to someone who's grieving, go right ahead. But if that's not in your heart, don't do it. I don't want it. I don't need it.
So that's new information. Sinclair Broadcast Group, which operates dozens of ABC-affiliated stations across America, they were going to force Jimmy Kimmel to give an apology, but Erika Kirk wanted the apology to be genuine or don't bother at all. Brandon, what have you made of the criticism of Erika Kirk? It has been so vicious and so ugly. I know you were very close with Charlie. I just can't believe how low the left is willing to stoop to attack this woman.
Well, I'll say that you're 100% right, that the left can find no new level of low, but the right has also done it. I am perplexed. I am frustrated. I'm angered at what people are doing in light of Charlie's death. They're shaming Turning Point USA. Some of them are shaming Charlie. Some of them are acting as if Charlie was a different person than he was, and he can't even defend himself. The asinine approach of shaming Erika Kirk and criticizing how she's mourning the death of her husband is insane to me. And people should be ashamed of themselves. The conspiracies that have come out about Charlie Kirk's death. I mean, I want to make this very clear. We know who killed Charlie. We have overwhelming evidence. And wait till the trial comes out and all of these naysayers and people that have been judgmental and acting like it was the Jews and all this other stuff, they're going to have to eat crow. They have overwhelming evidence about this guy, and we will find out soon. But it is shameful because I knew Charlie very well. Charlie was a very private person. Having his text messages leaked, having his wife in the forefront with people criticizing her would be something that Charlie would be against 100%. Charlie was a good man. Charlie was a God-fearing man. Charlie was a leader amongst, a leader for the next generation. And he would literally be so disappointed in so many people that claim that they loved him if he could just see what they have done in his name, or they made money off of his name, or they've created platforms off of his name in this conspiracy into his death.
It has been so disappointing to see that, and it must be for you as a friend of his, it must be heartbreaking to see that. First, the celebration of his murder from some demented quarters of the left, and then what's happened since. Before you go, I want to ask you about Tish Hyman. She's a singer who had her gym membership terminated because she dared speak out about male bodies in the women's change rooms. And one of the things she said, which I think needs to be focused on, she said she did not consent to being naked in front of some random man in the locker room.
It's dangerous. Me naked in front of a man without my permission. But I ain't the one who gets kicked out the gym, y'all. I'm terminated for not wanting men in the locker room.
Brandon, did you notice in that clip, no one seemed to be backing her. They all knew what happened. They know it's crazy, it's wrong, but they're too busy putting pronouns in their bio to actually take a stand on what is a genuine women's rights issue.
This had to be one of the craziest things I've ever seen. You know, when I first saw the video going viral, I imagined that it was a trans person, maybe a person that looked like a woman that's actually a man that came in the locker room and, you know, pulled his genitalia out just like Leah Thomas did. And that's what I thought initially. Then I saw the video. I said, wait a minute. This person ain't even trying to look like a woman. This guy looks like a man. He's dressed like a gym bro. And he just waltzed in the women's locker room. And he's looking at another woman naked. And let me say this. It's the epitome of what America has become in watching how no one is responding and supporting her. Everybody's too distracted with everything else they're doing to stand up for women. And it's crazy to me because I bet you $1 million if the black woman was out there saying it was a white man calling me an N-word, everybody would be jumping to a rescue. But why is it that when women are offended by men being in their locker rooms, watching them naked, some of them pulling down their pants and they have male genitalia and women didn't consent to it? I don't understand how the women's movement goes on and on and on, and we're standing up for women's rights and Me Too. But when it comes to men violating women in the locker room, somehow there's no voice. And I'll say this too. I think people should understand this. These people are perverted in many cases. Because as a man, if you ever went into a male locker room or if you ever been in the male bathroom, there are dividers. Men don't even pull out their genitalia in front of other men. I play football in the locker room. Look, you don't get naked in front of another man. But why is it that the man in the women's locker room have the liberty to say, I'm going to drop my pants and watch these women get undressed and get dressed? You telling me there's not something wrong with that? Why couldn't the gym protect women? Women should have to be able to consent to something like this, which I think most women wouldn't. That's why they don't do it. But you can't have men and you don't know where they stand. Is this guy transitioning? Is he not? Is he just a freaky guy who want to see naked women? Like, how do they determine that, or how do they filter that out to check women? They don't. And this is why this young lady was so upset. And I was trying to reach out to her because I love to interview her. This is insane, and women need a voice that are in these situations.
She is so brave for doing that, particularly somewhere like California, because we know the politics there. But it's good to see Gold's Gym is copping an almighty backlash online. People have seen their response to this and they are disgusted. Officer Tatum, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope we can speak again soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. God bless you.